Welcome to today's explainer, everyone. Now, since you're all sitting in this intro to business class, I want you to do me a favor. Just completely erase whatever preconceived notions you've got about human resources. Forget the old stereotype of a bored administrator just sitting there stamping forms and filing complaints, right? We're tossing that out the window today. HR is absolutely not just about pushing paper or policing the office anymore. It's about driving core business strategy. Literally, people are the business. So over the next few minutes, we're going to look at exactly how modern companies take a basic headcount and turn it into a massive competitive advantage.
You know, Richard Branson once said, take care of your employees and they'll take care of your business. And honestly, he hit the nail right on the head. That right there is the central thesis of our whole discussion today. If you strip away the fancy products, the software, the slick marketing campaigns, the actual engine driving any business's success is its people. It's a super simple equation, but pulling it off, that requires some seriously sophisticated strategy.
All right, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover 1. HR strategy, 2. The employee lifecycle, 3. Finding the right people, 4. Growth and performance, 5. Total rewards and culture, and finally, number 6, the legal floor. Let's jump in.
Section 1. HR strategy, not paperwork. Time to officially bust that myth of the purely administrative HR department.
Historically, sure, HR was kind of stuck in the filing cabinets, right? Handling payroll, benefits administration, ticking off compliance checklists. But today, no way. HR has a permanent seat in the boardroom. It's literally where talent strategy meets business strategy. Think about it like this. Say a company decides they're going to pivot hard into artificial intelligence over the next 3 years. Well, who figures out what new skills are needed, or when they're needed, and where on earth to find them? That's workforce planning. The entire goal of modern HR is to take raw headcount, just the literal number of people in the building, and transform it into actual compounding business capability. Moving right along to Section 2, the employee lifecycle. As future business leaders, you really need a mental map of how a worker interacts with a company. It's like this one continuous loop, and every single employee you'll ever manage is moving through these exact stages. First up, HR has to plan for the roles they need and recruit candidates. Then comes the really critical hire phase. You know, the interviewing and negotiating? Once they accept the offer, boom, we're into onboarding, getting them hooked up with the right tools and soaking in the culture. After that, we develop them to build up their skills over time. If we nail that part, we retain them. And finally, there's the exit phase, offboarding them gracefully so they actually leave as brand ambassadors. So the big takeaway here, HR's job is to make every single one of those specific transitions incredibly smooth and intentional.
Which brings us to Section 3, finding the right people.
Let's zoom in on that recruiting and hiring phase for a second, because the stakes here are incredibly high. Actually, prepare yourself for a little sticker shock. The data shows that a bad hire costs a company roughly 30% of that employee's first-year salary. Just let that sink in. Hiring is essentially this massive forecasting problem just dressed up as a people problem. If you get it wrong, you aren't just losing the hours you spent interviewing them, you're paying for lost productivity, all those resources drained during training, severance packages, plus the huge cost of going out and replacing them. So yeah, getting the right people in the door. It's a high-wire act with some very real financial consequences. So how exactly do we avoid taking that 30% hit? Well, we have to look at gut feel versus structured interviews. Back in the day, managers would often just hire based on vibes or, whoever they wanted to grab a beer with after work. But the numbers tell a totally different story. Using structured interviews, where you're asking the exact same questions using the exact same grading rubric and bringing in multiple interviewers, that predicts future performance roughly 2 times better than just going with your gut. But here's the catch. Before you even post the job, you gotta do a job analysis. You have to clearly define the role, the skills required, and ruthlessly separate the must-haves from the nice-to-haves. Look, patience and structure are basically always going to beat out gut feel and speed. All right, Section 4, growth and performance. Okay, so you've used those structured interviews, you found the right person, and they accepted the offer. Awesome. Now, how do you actually build their capability? Well, it starts the literal minute they walk through the door. Just think about this number, 2.6x. The first 90 days of a new job totally set the trajectory for an employee's time at a company. If you have a solid, structured onboarding process, engaged new hires are 2.6 times more likely to be satisfied at work. You can hire for skill, absolutely, but deep capability? That's built internally. Companies that train their people retain their people. It's that simple. Plus, closing skill gaps internally by upskilling the workforce you already have is way faster and way cheaper than trying to hunt down new people from the outside.
But of course, development requires feedback. And that brings us to a massive shift happening in modern business right now: the death of the annual review. Giant, super successful companies, think Adobe, GE, Microsoft, they have totally killed off the traditional annual performance review. And why? Because sitting down just once a year to judge someone's past performance is just kind of ineffective. Instead, they've replaced it with continuous feedback. We're talking weekly one-on-ones, real-time check-ins, basically way fewer surprises. The best managers out there are spending way more time coaching than judging. Fact, Gallup found that managers drive 70% of a team's engagement. So performance management today? It's all about setting really clear goals like objectives and key results, or OKRs, and then actively coaching your people toward them in real time.
Let's move to Section 5, Total Rewards and Culture.
Now, this section is going to be incredibly relevant for all of you in this class, because pretty soon you're going to be out there negotiating your own job offers. And when you get that very first offer letter, I need you to remember this. Base salary is just the price of admission. It is definitely not the whole prize. A company's compensation strategy is really a total rewards bundle, and it tells you exactly what they value. Sure, it includes your base pay, which is usually based on market data and salary bands, but it also packs in bonuses, equity, like stock options or profit sharing that literally align you with the company's long-term success, and of course, a full suite of benefits.
And let me tell you, those benefits absolutely move the needle. Data from Glassdoor shows that 60% of workers weigh benefits super heavily when they're considering an offer. We're talking health insurance, 401k matching, parental leave, even mental health support. A company really has to sit down and figure out its total rewards philosophy. Where do they want to lead the market, and where are they okay with lagging a bit? Like, you might actually take a slightly lower base salary at a startup if they're throwing in aggressive equity and an incredible learning budget, right?
But hey, culture isn't just about what you're getting paid. It's about who's in the room with you and how decisions get made. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, that sits right at the intersection of fairness and actual performance. And the business case here is crystal clear. According to McKinsey, top quartile diverse leadership teams are 36% more likely to outperform their peers when it comes to profitability. 36%? Bringing different perspectives to the table naturally leads to sharper, much better business decisions. But keep in mind, diversity is just the mix of people. Inclusion, that's whether those people actually feel heard once they've made it into the room.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 6, the legal floor.
As much as we love talking about culture and strategy, employment is still one of the most highly regulated activities in the business world, and you really need to memorize these baseline protections. First off, know that most U.S. employment is what's called at will. That just means either side can walk away and end the relationship at any time, unless there's a union contract saying otherwise. But there are strict federal boundaries. For instance, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act bans discrimination in hiring, firing, or pay based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Then you've got the Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA, which sets the rules for minimum wage and overtime. The Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, requires reasonable accommodations for qualified workers with disabilities. And the Family and Medical Leave Act, the FMLA, provides up to 12 weeks of unpaid, job-protected leave for serious family or health needs.
Okay, that's the legal stuff, but I want to leave you with this absolutely brilliant metaphor to tie it all together. The law sets the floor. Culture sets the ceiling. Think about that. As a business leader, simply complying with Title VII or the ADA, that is literally the bare minimum. That's just keeping yourself out of court. What your company builds above that line, how you onboard people, how you train them, that total rewards bundle you offer, the true inclusion you foster, that is what defines your actual organizational culture. And that's exactly what makes the best people out there choose to stay.
Which leads me to a final thought I want you all to debate as you get ready to enter the modern workforce. We've spent this whole time talking about how HR maximizes capability and productivity, right? But where exactly is the line between a company's legitimate interest in tracking and maximizing that productivity and an employee's fundamental right to privacy and autonomy at work? It's a huge tension, and it's one every single modern company has to navigate. So think about it, debate it with your classmates, and we will see you in the next explainer.